while, let me get started. We've been talking about, or I've been talking about, a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And the first couple of weeks, or I guess this is the fourth week already, the first 3 weeks I've been talking about who we really are. Who am I? Who am I? Because that's the basis for spiritual work, to have an understanding of who I really am. And I gave some examples about that. I said, you know, we are not our body. We are not our body. My body does not look the same as it did in second grade. You might imagine that. It didn't look like this. So my body changes. So I'm not my body, because my body is not the same as it always has been. I'm not my thoughts either. Thoughts come and thoughts go, don't they? Thoughts come and thoughts go. I'm not my story. My story is just the experiences I've had, but I'm not my story. That's not who I really am. And I'm not that voice inside my head either. We all have one. And if right now you're saying, no, I don't have one. You have one. That's it. That's the one I'm talking about. The one that's saying, no, you don't have one, or yes, I recognize it. We're not that either. And listen, we're not our heart. Last week I talked about our heart. We're not our heart either. Our heart can open and close, but we are not our heart. We are the consciousness and awareness that stands behind all that, because we're the one that notices it. We can notice what we think. We can notice how we feel. We can notice the thoughts coming and the thoughts going. We can notice and become aware of that voice inside our head. We can notice our heart opening and our heart closing. We can notice all. That's who we really are. We are that which stands behind all that. And it's hard to get our mind around that. Like I said, a lot of my spiritual understanding comes like this. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, I understand it, and then it's gone. Because I get a glimpse of that spiritual nature that I am, and then I'm back in the world. I'm back in the world of getting things done and feeding myself and getting to work, and etc., etc. Last week, I did talk about this idea that the heart is our energy center. It is through our heart, this energy center in us, that we experience all of life. For instance, we experience all of the five senses through the energy center that's our heart. We may see something, and we can visually see something, but the experience of what that means we feel in our heart. You see that? You see that? Sorry. Or we taste something, and something tastes really, really good. Renee and I were out at an event last night, and she had some of the best barbecue. She can't quit talking about it. Well, the taste buds tasted it, but the feeling she had and that she loved it so much was in her heart, in that energy center. That's the experience of having amazing barbecue. It's the same way with something we hear. We hear some music we really love. We're telling Michael and Justin and Kay we love it. The experience we have, though, is in our heart. It's not in our ears. We simply hear it, and the experience we have is in our heart. That's the energy center in each of us. And the funny thing about the heart is we can either be really open with our heart and allow those experiences to pass through, or we can close it down. And when we close it down, stuff gets stuck in our heart. So let's just have this really quick example. So think about someone you really love a lot in your life. It could be your significant other, your husband, your wife, your child. You think about how much love you hold for that person in your heart, all the support they've given you over the years, your son that's taken care of you, whatever it is, and feel that love. Now think of the thing about them that annoys you to no end. The heart starts to close. It starts to creak closed. Because we're annoyed. And when we're annoyed, our heart is not open. And we don't have to look much further than the people we love to find the things that annoy us. Renee and I were talking about that at lunch today. About what, well, no, we didn't use the word annoy. Did we? We did, okay. But we just had a conversation about it. Because it happens to the people you love the most. They annoy the out of you. And they do that when your heart is closed. If your heart was open, that annoyance would pass right through. It wouldn't even be annoyance. It would be love to start with. And so I asked you last week to just notice when your heart closes and when it's open. And when it's open, it's completely freedom. You never think about a thing until something in there that unfinished energy that you have. Because Renee doesn't really annoy me. It's something in me that gets touched by what she does that I have not let go of. It's all about me. For me and you for you. Sorry, it's not about the other person. It never is. So, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Well, like I've said, the reason that our heart closes is there's some unfinished business in there. Think about an ex of any kind, an ex-friend, an ex-wife, an ex-husband, an ex-whatever. Alright? And you see that person at the store, you see them out and about, and if you get any kind of reaction in you, there is something in you you have not yet released. And the root of all those disturbances that happen in you, you know what the root is? The root is fear. The root is fear. And fear defined as wanting to control your life. Wanting it to be the way you want it to be. That is the root. When that heart closes, anything that closes the heart, anything stuck in there that results in a closed heart, anything stuck in there makes the heart weak. And when the heart is weak, it is subject to fear. And when it's subject to fear, it closes down like that. And it causes all of our problems. Let me read this. Fear is the cause of every problem. It's the root of all prejudices and the negative emotions of anger, jealousy, and possessiveness. If you had no fear, you could be perfectly happy living in this world. Think about that. If I didn't fear needing to be right, if I didn't fear somebody finding me out, if I didn't have to feel the need to control my life, I could walk around the world perfectly happy. Nothing would bother you, he says. You'd be willing to face everything and everyone because you wouldn't have fear inside of you that would cause that disturbance. Fear being, not the fear, the white-knuckle fear of, for me, being at the top of a roller coaster, but the fear of needing to control what happens in my life. Let me give you a few examples. Here's a big one, and this is one we all, I'm going to project and assume here, that we all have this stuck place in us of unforgiveness. We have this thing in us that says, you know what? Not forgiving that, not letting that person off the hook. Never, ever, won't do it, just cross it off the list. It's going to be it. You know, that's the fear of not being able to control, right? Wasn't able to control my life then, can't control it now, hanging on to it. Yes, that's the white knuckle hanging on at the top of a roller coaster for me. It's all about needing to be in control of that unforgiveness. Because it means that I'm letting somebody off the hook. Its second cousin is blame. If I can just make somebody else responsible for the way my life is, you know, that will be much easier for me. And I hold on to that blame because I want to control my life. And if I just give the blame to somebody else, then that makes me okay. Not. There's this idea that most of us have carried around with us at least some part of our life, this idea of not good enough. Maybe I'm the only one, but this idea of not good enough, I think, is actually a rampant one. It makes us afraid to take a risk. We're afraid that somebody won't like us, that somebody will judge us as less than, and so we walk around the world that way. That's a fear, the fear of being called out, the fear of someone else saying, what right do you have doing that? Because we have this seething idea in our energy center that we haven't let loose that we're not good enough somehow. That somehow we're unimportant and weak and we don't matter. That kind of stuff is stuck in us, I'm telling you, and our spiritual work is to let it go. Our spiritual work is to realize that that's not really who I am, that I am not that pain, that I am not that not good enough thing. I'm the one back here watching all that activity take place. And here's a law that is as true today as it ever was. And that is, the longer you take to release that energy, the harder it'll be. You know that intuitively. We teach that in business, or people have taught me that in business. They said that phone call that's difficult to make, don't wait to make it. Make it as soon as you can, because it won't get any easier. Well, it's the same here. The things we hold on to the longest, they're the hardest to let go of. They're the hardest because we have sunk our claws right into it. We're not willing to let it go. But that's exactly the spiritual work that we have to do. Do I want to operate from that fear? Do I want to take that roller coaster ride down? Or do I want to lift myself up in the other direction? So I want to share a couple of stories with you that you might have heard before, but I think they're poignant enough to share with you again. I hope you think so. This first story is about Renee and I and our cat Sam. So Sam's been gone about 5 years or so at this point in time, looking at Renee because she knows how to keep track of that. But Sam was only 10 years old. He was a black cat. He was a large black cat. He was my first cat. And Sam had a lot of health issues. He was on insulin. We gave him insulin shots every day. He was not a real healthy boy, but man, we both loved Sam. And Sam was at the vet. He had one operation, and then he had a second operation. And after the second operation, our vet, who we really love, said, listen, I'm not going to leave Sam over the weekend at the vet hospital. I'm going to take him home with me so that I can keep a good eye on him. We're like, oh my gosh, that's so great. That's so great. You're going to keep him with you. So she took him home after Friday, and she had him on Saturday, and Renee called her, texted her, whatever, and said, listen, we want to come over and see Sam. And the vet said, this is not a good time right now. Let me call you back. So we waited through the morning. I don't think it was real long, a few hours. And the vet calls Renee and says that Sam has died. Well, Renee was mad. Renee, in 3 letters, just believe, she was mad. She was mad because we had asked to come see our cat, and we weren't able to go there and tell him goodbye because she said, no, don't come now. Oh, Renee was mad. And she was in the middle of this book or some other book we were working on, and she knew that she had to get rid of this thing because it was eating her up. It was eating her up. And so one morning in meditation, or before she would do things like go in front of the mirror and say, I forgive our vet. I forgive, she used the name, I forgive our vet. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. There were affirmations. I release this. I release this. No, it wasn't working. It wasn't working. All these things that we teach is like, nope, I'm still holding on to it. So she's sitting in the morning having a meditation one time, and she read, probably in this book, that it's not about pretending you don't feel what you feel. It's about feeling it and allowing it to go. So that's what she did. She sat in meditation, and she decided to keep her heart open, is the way I'll describe it. And all those feelings of judgment and being mad and angry and not having had the opportunity to say goodbye to Sam, they all welled up. I mean, they welled up and tears were coming down her face. They got to that crescendo. And then the miracle happens. Released and let go. And she came out of that meditation a different person than she went in by releasing that energy, by experiencing what it is, and then simply and powerfully letting it go. Wow. That's how it's done. If you let go and permit the purification process to take place inside, that blocked energy will be released. Do you hear that? The blocked energy will be released. This energy then strengthens you instead of weakening you. And you begin to go up higher and higher, and you learn the secret of ascent. The secret of ascent is to never look down, to always look up. So let it go. No matter what it is, let it go. The bigger it is, the higher reward of letting go, and the worse the fall if you don't. It's pretty black and white. You either let it go or you don't. Any argument with that? You either let it go or you don't. There really isn't anything in between. That which is holding you down can become a powerful force that raises you up. You just have to be willing to go in that direction. So here's another story about Renee and I. Anybody who knows Renee knows she loves her Mercedes-Benz convertible. She loves her car. She loves that car. She found that car on Craigslist. She had a guy from South Carolina haul it up here on a flatbed truck, meet her at the bank. She paid for that car. She loves her car. She's a car gal. Me, Renee, she loves that car. So she's had it about a year, less than a year, a little bit less than a year. And I'm home, and somebody knocks on her door. I answer the door. Renee's still at work, or she's working out after work. And this woman says, "Is Renee Wells here?" And I said, "No, she's not here. Can I help you?" "Well, I need to talk to Renee." I said, "Well, she's not here. I don't know when she's going to be home. She's working. I'm her partner. What can I help you with?" And she said, "Well, right in my hand here, I have a repossession order for her car."
No.
I was like, what? Like that. I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We have a title for that car." She was not convinced. So I invited her in. And I said, "Tell me what is going on here?" "Well, I have a repossession order from a bank that says that this car has not been paid for, and I need to take the car." I said, "Okay, well, let me talk to Renee when she comes home." And she said, "Well, you call me back." And I said, "I will. I'll call you back." So Renee, and I'm thinking about this, and I said, "Well, we have the title. Something is wrong. We have the title. Black and white. We have a title from the DMV for this car." So Renee comes home, and we have this conversation. I get a pit in my stomach right now thinking about it. How difficult it was, because Renee loves her car. And it's our car. We have a title for it. I said, "Renee," and I told her what happened. And I said, "Listen, I think we need to let them take the car." Yeah. That's pretty much the way Renee was. "What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, that's crazy." Well, listen. What she told me was, we could give her the car or not, but they're going to be looking for it. And if they find it on the street, they're going to tow it. Because that was her job, was to get this car back to their tow yard, to get it to the bank, who said it wasn't paid for. We gave them the car. And it wasn't, every friend that we talked to said, "What in the world were you thinking? Why did you give them the car?" But we had decided that keeping it in the garage locked up was that same thing as keeping your heart closed down. Like, what good was going to come of that? So we were going to tighten the hatches, pull the things down, and then what? Keep the car in the garage and not use it. Because we couldn't risk taking it out on the street because someone was going to tow it. And we said, and we agreed that there's obviously a mistake, so we're going to give them the car. So the woman came back, and we watched someone else drive her car away. Her Mercedes-Benz convertible. Used now, but still new. And it was a week that was very difficult. We talked to attorneys, we tried to get to the bottom line of it. And what we did end up finding out was that this car was issued a title in South Carolina that should not have been issued. It was not a clear title in South Carolina. And the guy who had the clear title didn't know it wasn't a clear title. And he sold it to us, but he didn't know. So the DMV in South Carolina made a mistake. And now they were keeping our car. So we finally got to that point, and we said, "You know what? We'll just have to get another car for now." Because that's the way it has to be. Until that Friday afternoon, I'll never forget, I'm at a job site, and Renee calls me and says, "You're never going to believe this. They're going to give us the car back." And we figured out they're giving us the car back because this bank, they're going to sue the DMV in South Carolina for issuing an incorrect title and they knew that we were not at fault. Now there's a lot of twists and turns in that story, but the one thing I'm proud of the most is when my sister asked Renee, so what did you learn from this? What Renee told my sister was, I learned that Paula and I can get through anything. And that was more valuable than anything or any car at any time, to me, and obviously to Renee. Real transformation begins when you embrace your problems as agents for growth. When you can find it in yourself to come to center instead of getting all caught up in the emotion of it, to know that there's a way, to know that you can find a way, and to be able to accept whatever the outcome is. That's to live with an open heart in freedom and not clawing in and attaching ourselves to things we can't control. Now, I'll let you know, probably next week, there'll be stories where we haven't been so successful. But I wanted to share those stories with you because they are so important in our life, and I know you can relate to them. But because we don't easily go there, we hold on to stuff, and it makes life difficult. Let me read you this. This is the way, and I'm going way over today, but if you have to leave, I guess you'll leave. I'm not going to be attached to it. But let me read this story. This is such an important story. Michael Singer talks about this thing that we refuse to take out of ourselves, that blockage in our heart, as if it's a thorn. And here's the story he tells about this thorn. He said, you have this thorn, and you decide you have to keep things from touching that thorn. And that's a work of a lifetime, he says. If you have a thorn in your arm, and you go through a walk through the woods, you have to make sure nothing touches that thorn. You got to be walking along and make sure the branches are trimmed back far enough that nothing touches the thorn. And since you roll over a lot when you sleep, you have to find a solution for that as well, because that's thorn sticking right in your arm, and golly, you don't want to roll over it in the middle of the night. So perhaps you could design a protective device for that thorn, so that when you roll over, it doesn't hurt. And you do that. And you put a lot of energy and work into designing that thing. And eventually and you get a patent on it. And you sell it, and you're making money from that. You're thinking, hey, I got this thorn thing now, right? And then what happens? You built your whole life around this thorn. And then you fall in love. And then you got to figure out how to have something to protect your thorn so you can hug the person you love. And maybe you decide that you need to combine it with the thing that you sleep with. And then it gets really heavy, so you have to put it on wheels and put a hydraulic system in it. And then you have to widen the doors in your house because you can't get it through. But you're so happy because now you're free from the thorn. And that's what we do sometimes. We make this full-time, we've got this thing protecting this thorn, and all we really have to do is take it out. Let it go. Don't carry it around. That's really all we need to do. Somebody wants to say, but. No, there's no buts. You either take it out or you keep it in. There's no in between. That's our choice about the thorn. So what are your thorns? We all have some. You know, if there was that one person that caused you to lose trust, you're like, okay, that's never happening again. Nope, don't trust you. You have to prove it about 10 times before I even begin to think about trusting you. And you carry that around. How many opportunities of living in life do you walk right on by because you decide, I'm not trusting anybody? Nobody. That happens, that same kind of thing happens when I'm holding a grudge. Yep, a grudge is a thorn right there. I want to make sure. I want to make sure you know how much you hurt me. We carry hurt like a badge. We're like, yep, right here. You hurt me? I'm carrying this hurt. I'm not letting it go. I want you to, you see how that works? All we really need to do is let it go. But here's what's happened. One more thing, I got to read this. one more thing. Here's what's happened. Here's how we've set ourselves up to be in this place. We have set up our mind in this way. You said to your mind, this is what we've said in our minds. I want everybody to like me. I don't want anyone to speak badly of me. I want everything I say and do to be acceptable and pleasing to everyone. I don't want to hurt anyone to hurt me, and I don't want anything to happen that I don't like. And I want everything to happen that I do like. And then you say to your mind, now figure out a way to make that happen. And your mind says, sure, right on it. And it's trying to tell you that everything out here has to change for you to be okay, which is not the truth. Here's the truth. Everything will be okay when you are okay with everything. Everything will be okay when you are okay with everything. Not that this is happening out here, not that some atrocity is happening, but when you refuse to close your heart, that's when everything will be okay, and not before. That's the truth. You are not the pain, you are not the frustration, you are not all those negative things. You are the one who is observing all that. You are already okay. But when you realize that everything will be okay, when you keep your heart open, that is the day your spiritual growth will come shooting out of the ground from the seed of perfection that you are. So let's stop there. And let's have a little meditation this evening. To get comfortable and to be still. If you want to sit on a cushion, please come forward. You're welcome to sit. Let's simply realize that the way to address a thorn, the way to address unforgiveness, frustration, not trusting, doubting myself, is to simply remove the thorn, to take it away, to take it out, to set it aside, to let it go. To breathe into this moment and decide to let it go. quickest way to change the world is to like it the way it is. So take a deep breath in and feel what it feels like to have let it go. Doesn't mean that we're not passionate about changing something, that we don't have our eyes set at the mountaintop. It doesn't mean that we don't evolve, that we're stagnant. It means the opposite. It means that we'll let nothing inside of us block the way to being all we came here to be. So this week we simply remember to let it go.